my life, I've had like 3 main topics that I've really obsessed over.
Yep.
And when I was younger, it was Alex Morgan and the U.S. women's national soccer team.
Awesome.
Then it was Harry Styles, and then it was basketball. So those are like my 3 things. So I would definitely pick Harry Styles.
All right. Are you considering going to college?
Yes, and I have some pretty exciting news for you, JR.
It's a 3-pointer. It's from deep. It's in the air. It's good afternoon. And welcome back to the SuperFan Diaries. We are coming to you from Broadway in downtown Nash Vegas. And today we have a guest who's going to make every adult in the room feel slightly embarrassed about how little they know about the NBA. I'm JR Green. And this is a story about what happens when a teenager walks into a room full of NBA legends and somehow, some way, she's the one asking the tough questions. Before the podcast, before Blake Griffin and Dwight Howard sat across from her, before she had her own show, she was just a kid who knew everything about basketball. And somehow, that turned into one of the most unique voices in sports media today. She's 18 years old. She runs her own NBA, WNBA podcast, and she has already interviewed legends that most of us only watch on television. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of Sloane Knows, Sloane Knows! Welcome to the show, Sloane!
Thank you. I loved that introduction. That was so fun to listen to.
Well, you deserve it. I mean, you've got so much energy, and I've had a chance, as many people now after this show will go on and take a view of so much of your work out there, and you deserve it. And, you know, just for you today, I'm wearing a basketball jersey. It's the only one I could find.
I saw that. Strong.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. I mean, it's...
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Strong.
That's
got very cool.
You know, get the little Looney Tunes out there.
Space Jam 1 was like one of my favorite movies growing up. And I liked Space Jam 2 with LeBron, but I think I prefer the MJ one.
You get right back into the biggest debate that seems that everyone wants to talk about is between these two people of, well, just get down to it. Who did the movie better? Well, I have an actual 14-year-old and a 15-year-old, so I'm right in the middle of everything, Sloane, when it comes to history of these movies. So I used to watch them all.
Do you know which one they like better?
They like them both. I mean, I kind of, you push them a little bit toward Michael Jordan just because when they were kids, that's the original. My question is this: how did you become so obsessed with more NBA versus sneakers? Because my kids are obsessed with sneakers.
Well, I would say my NBA obsession is probably here, and my obsession with all things clothes, fashion, shoes is not that far behind.
Okay.
I'm still very obsessed with all of that. I think I just decide to talk about it less. But yeah, no, I am definitely obsessed. I don't think that word is an exaggeration. It all started really at a young age for me. I've always loved to memorize things. That's always been something I've been really interested in. And so when I was about 3 years old, my dad claims that I was able to recite the whole entire Yankees roster.
Wow.
I guess, there wasn't really iPhones really then. It was like the year that the iPhone started. So I guess we don't have it on video, but he says that was possible. And I think that that's sort of where my obsession started, because after that, he noticed I was into sports. My dad played soccer at Yale, so he's
he is not only an athlete, he is a smart athlete.
Yes, exactly. D1 smart athlete, all the things. And so he sort of threw me into it, and we started going to all various types of sporting events, and I just became obsessed. And I didn't just love watching the games. I loved knowing all the information and memorizing it and sort of being a freak about it.
Wow. Okay, so you were able to memorize this. When did basketball stop becoming something you just watched and became, just like you said, obsession? I actually know more about this than your own dad.
I had loosely always watched basketball and really liked it. And when I was about 7, that's when Steph Curry really blew up. So I had started to watch the Warriors on TV. And my parents surprised me with a trip to San Francisco to see the Warriors play. And it was the 2015 Warriors. I'm 7 years old. And when I got to see that, with my 2 eyes, I don't know how a kid couldn't fall in love. It was so special. And, I'm wearing a really cool Warriors jacket.
I know. I'm still shocked. But what about the Clippers or the Lakers? Was it just, if they're in your backyard?
Of course, I get why that is confusing, but both of my parents were born in New York City. They're LA transplants. And so my dad is actually he was, I'll get into that. He sort of converted to being a Warriors fan with me, but
Okay.
he was a pretty big Knicks fan growing up. And then my mom also was born in New York. And so because of that, we don't really have any family ties to LA teams. It's more family hatred for LA teams, because they're
Of
New York
course.
people.
You're New York,
So
yes.
I didn't feel a connection to the New York teams, but I also didn't feel a connection to the LA teams. And so then sort of when I fell in love with Steph and his game was when I chose the Warriors to be my team.
Very cool. All right, now I've got this. I've picked it up,
Yeah.
and I can relate because I lived in Los Angeles for a
Really?
short. I did. I lived for a short period of time. I loved it. I obviously cheered heavily for the Lakers, holding that out and being a part of LA. But then I moved to New York, and I became a fan of the Giants. The Knicks just weren't very good right then, so I wasn't able to jump into it. But now,
Well, if you want to become a bandwagon Knicks fan, literally today
well,
would
now-
be the day.
yeah,
to do
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, it's right now because right now it's the hottest thing in the world.
Yes, exactly.
Well, speaking of that and some of the interviews you've done, let's, in terms of some of the things you've done in Sloane Knows, can you describe the show in your own words?
I'd love to. So Sloane Knows, the idea of this show is the NBA and the WNBA through the perspective of a teenage girl. Sports is obviously, in my opinion, the universal language. People on all 7 continents, all over the world, are huge sports fans.
Yep.
And so it always surprised me, if that's the case, why is it predominantly men talking about sports in media? And why is it also predominantly, older men talking about sports in media?
No offense taken. None at all.
Okay, good. And as, a young teenage girl who I always felt, sort of like you said, how are you not obsessed with shoes? I am. But I'm also obsessed with basketball and pop culture and so many of the other things. And so it was really important to me that I was that voice that I never saw.
Yep.
And, I love watching Stephen A. Smith, but I don't have the same opinions as him. I think our opinions are usually shaped by our life, and our
Yes.
perspectives. And he's a 60-something-year-old dad, I'm a teenage girl. So we're going to look through sports through a different lens. And I wanted to be the voice for other girls like me.
Oh, I think it's amazing. It's what I'll say when we even built this show, there haven't been a lot of shows about fans, about the
Totally.
passion of super fans, because just like you said, everyone is so focused on, not to say old school media, I'm a part of that, but it's old school media focused on the stats of which you clearly can memorize really well. But it's geared probably 90%, Sloane knows, it's geared toward men. I think I'm thrilled to be able to tell you, I believe our show is 60% male, 40% female.
That's
in terms of
amazing.
viewers and listeners. And I'm so proud of that. And
That's incredible.
I think as you get through to a lot of media, it hasn't happened. So I've got another question for you, which you just raised,
Okay.
being
Yes.
18. Well, you got started when you were 16. And so let's just
I
dive.
actually started when I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even better. And you got
Yeah.
that in terms of the, they always say the tipping point of hours. You got to get so many hours before you become an expert. So you've
Exactly.
gotten a start since you were 13.
Yeah.
But I don't know a lot, Sloane knows, but I do know
Okay.
that if you get started before the age of 18, you have to, I believe, have your parents heavily involved. Were your parents supportive, and how did they help?
Yeah. Well, like I've said, from the beginning of this, my dad is also a huge basketball fan. So he was always super supportive. And my mom is the most badass woman sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but
Badass
it's
is fine.
okay to say
Badass
this
is
to her.
fine.
She's the most badass woman I've ever met. And so the mix of a dad who loves sports and a badass mom, I think it merged perfectly to create a girl who wants to promote girl power and sports in one. So they've been unbelievably supportive.
Yep.
I actually
Awesome.
grew up playing competitive soccer.
No surprise, because your dad was an NCAA athlete.
Yes, no, it's true. And so for people who are, I don't know, I think sometimes people know about the Southern California soccer circuit, that's driving all over the country for games.
Oh.
And my parents have always been willing to literally drive me across the country, anywhere, anytime, for any game. And so when it shifted to this, they were willing to do the same, which is amazing. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, they basically get to take you to locations around their time, and you don't feel bad about missing a game or doing any impact that would affect the whole team.
Yeah, it's also pretty cool for them because I get invited to a lot of cool things where I get to have a +1. So I think my parents maybe might be a little happy that they get to meet, at least for my dad, some of his favorite athletes. I've been the one to, introduce him to, which has been really cool.
All right, so now getting back to the show.
Yeah.
It features games in terms of really creative games like takes hotter than Kelly Jr. and Muggsy or Minute, which,
Yes.
just for our listeners, sounds absolutely fantastic. I love the detailed questions where you basically place a star. I mean, I saw it. I saw these videos, and for you all listening, be sure to go out there and check out what she's doing. And I love watching these, these superstars have to say, oh, I don't want to pick against my teammate. But at the end of the day, that one ended up being Michael Jordan. How did these games come together, and who's writing this stuff? Is it all you?
Yeah, so all those games, and when I play games like that, a lot of it is a mix of me and then my producing partner, Nick.
Okay.
But what's super cool is, so for instance, the Takes Hotter Than Kelly Oubre Jr. idea was something that I started at the beginning of my podcast. I sort of grown out of that a little, but that was my favorite segment ever. And the reason why that was my favorite segment ever was because, so Kelly Oubre Jr. is a very, very handsome basketball player. He's also been a model and a lot of things like that. And I felt that Takes Hotter Than Kelly Oubre Jr., that title, which I made up, was the perfect way to incorporate being a teenage girl. And then also because the name is so teenage girly, talking about a celebrity crush, right? But then making that segment actually talk about deep basketball knowledge. So that's always important to me, that you sort of have that juxtaposition. But then, there's
You just said juxtaposition. I mean, that's a big word for an 18-year-old.
Well, I had to be studying for the ACT for a while, so I had to get my vocabulary up.
I love it.
But, something else that I do is I love to play this game at the end of every episode where I ask players and athletes trivia about themselves. So the idea is the podcast is called Sloane Knows, and I do know, but do you know? And that was super fun. I got that idea from an influencer sort of called Nardwar, and his content is with like rappers and musicians. He would ask them questions about, he would say to Travis Scott, for instance, ask Travis Scott about his second grade teacher. And he's like, how do you know my second grade teacher's name? And I used to watch those clips when I was little. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, I want to show players that I've done enough research that even they might not know what I'm talking about. So that's how I think of things like that.
I love it. I love it. Now, your very first guest on the show, well, I believe was Blake Griffin, or one of them.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. That was the first episode that we put out, but we had banked a bunch more because that is not possible to have Blake really be the first.
Well, everybody know, who is Blake Griffin? Because we may have a lot of listeners that never heard of Blake Griffin, and he is a household name in a lot of circuits. But for people that don't know him, who is he?
Yeah, Blake Griffin is a retired NBA superstar who is now actually a commentator. And he is known for his tenure on the Los Angeles Clippers. He was part of a group called the Lob City Clippers, which was Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Jordan. And they were an explosive young team. It was sort of the first time the Clippers had really been good. Sorry to all those Clippers fans, known for their crazy slam dunks. So he's a crazy dunker. He went to Oklahoma. He's just an all-around really cool guy.
I love it. Well, Clipper Darrell, he loves him, and he's a super fan for the Clippers.
I love Clipper Darrell. He's so cool. I always hear his screams, when I'm at the Clippers games.
I love it. Well, he's definitely been on the show. We love him. All right, now, when you interviewed Blake, were you nervous?
To be honest with you,
yes.
No.
Okay. Wow.
I wasn't, which is crazy. But there's a lot of players that I have been nervous for. I just don't think they maybe are who everyone else would expect. I think that with, a player like Blake Griffin, for instance, I've done so much research on him my whole life when it wasn't for a podcast. I just love him as a player. And so I really knew that I knew him front and back. So I didn't feel nervous. But then there's been players like, for instance, Juan Toscano Anderson. He is a Mexican, one of the only Mexican players in the NBA. He's been in and out of the G League, but he had a tenure on the Warriors where he was a huge fan favorite. And he became one of my favorite players for his heart. Really, there's a clip where he dives into the scorer's table to try to throw the ball back into the game. And it's things like that I love to see. And JTA, which is his nickname, is someone that hasn't been talked to as much by the media. And so that was an interview that I was nervous for because I knew that I was going to be someone to really uncover more, whereas Blake Griffin, the world knows. It was
Yeah.
more just a fun conversation, if that makes sense.
No, I love it. Also, you're finding, individuals that aren't getting the front page of the New York Times with what they're doing. So
Exactly.
I
And
love
that's
it.
really important to me. Yeah.
Well, I love that. Now, but on the flip side, you've also had interviews with Dwight Howard, Richard Jefferson, Baron
Yes.
Davis. These are not
Yeah.
small names. How on earth are you getting these interviews at the age of, my gosh, maybe you were 14, 15, 16?
So at my elementary school, in sixth grade, which is the year that then we went from elementary school to middle school, we all got to pick a quote. And we got to give a speech to our whole student body about why that quote meant something to us.
Wow,
And the quote that I chose was, if you don't shoot, you can't make it. Of course, it had to do with basketball, classic. And I really took that quote and ran with it. And, there's 438 something current players in the NBA. I mean, there's take that, times it by whatever, 100 for the people that have ever played in the NBA. At some point, if you continue shooting your shot, someone is going to say yes. And there's also such an extreme brotherhood in the NBA and sisterhood in the WNBA, where I really think that when players find something that they like and a media outlet where they feel comfortable, they're really kind in, sharing that. And as an example, I was partners with Draymond Green, who's my favorite player, as you can tell, Warriors fan, for 2 years. And Draymond has been an incredible mentor to me, and he's also been an incredible talent booker. He really took me under his wing and has been incredible in helping me book other players and get me into these rooms. And it all just started because Draymond had seen my work on social media, sent me an email, and we connected. And
the dominoes, the dominoes
exactly,
just fall and right into your place.
No pun intended, but don't be afraid to shoot your shot.
I love it. All right. Has there ever been a guest who's tested your knowledge, someone who tried to stump you and actually came close to doing it? Obviously, if you got Draymond Green involved, he's an entertaining character. I mean, this guy's got a lot going on. I could see him setting someone up to say, all right, see if you could do this. Let's try to stump her.
Yeah. So as an 18-year-old, I was born in 2007. And so I have, I would say, immense knowledge about today's NBA.
Yeah.
But it's difficult for me to feel as much of an expert when we're talking about, the NBA in 1972. My parents weren't even born then. So, it's hard. So
I wasn't either, by the way. I'm just happy to tell everybody I wasn't either yet.
Exactly. And so I think that there's times where people make references to the old NBA, even the ABA days, where I'm like, oh, I don't think I know that much about that. And then I have to, I like to use resources like Claude and ChatGPT and TikTok.
Which most people didn't have back then, right?
Yeah, exactly,
I mean, that's the thing is
exactly.
you can just get whatever you want this quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Sloane, let's talk about the reality of now being 18-year-old and running a podcast. I believe you're a senior in high school, right?
I am.
And you're living in Los Angeles.
I am.
I can relate to this world as my daughter. She's a freshman. We haven't yet had to start digging into the highly competitive world of colleges. But you mentioned earlier you took the ACT or the SAT. Are you considering going to college?
Yes, and I have some pretty exciting news for you, JR.
Oh.
I'm going to Vanderbilt. I'm
What?
going to Vanderbilt in Nashville.
Sloane Knows is coming to Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Well, I would just tell you this. My children, in terms of Vanderbilt, just so you know, and for everybody listening, it has become, and also just give your dad and mom a high five, because Vanderbilt is considered, and the stats, I'm sure someone may tell, #1 most difficult school on the planet of Earth to get into.
Yes.
So
that was true for this year. It was a
#1.
wild ride. It was a wild ride, I have to tell you.
You want to go to MIT? Easy. You want to go to Harvard? Easy. You want to go to Vanderbilt?
I don't know about that.
Let me just tell you why. And I know all my friends from Harvard and MIT are like, JR, you're exaggerating again. Well, here's the reality of it. Yes, but what's been going on, Sloane knows, is that from the East Coast, a lot of people want to go to SEC schools. It's the sports, it's the passion, it's the camaraderie, it's everything. Even though I know reality, SEC schools have been losing a lot, I know, to the Big Ten, but it's still more fun. It's the weather, it's the just pandemonium, it's the what I'll call the chants, the cheering.
Yeah.
And what's happened is people have now come out here, so it is so hard to get into schools, and everybody wants to go to a Ivy League, and Vanderbilt having my office, just so you know, right here, our podcast booth
Mhm.
is, I don't think I could throw a stone, but I could definitely hit a driver and get my ball to the campus of Vanderbilt from where I'm
No
right
way.
here. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my God, that is so exciting.
So
Okay,
are you?
well, I'm gonna have to come
Oh,
visit in person.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you're
100%.
going to see the podcast booth is what's called a fishbowl. And so like right now you've got people walking up and down in front
I
of our
love that.
podcast booth all day
Yeah.
long. So,
One of the things that attracted me most to Vanderbilt, and
yes.
this might be a little biased, but I really do believe it's the most well-rounded school out there. It has everything. But I remember when I toured a bunch of colleges with my mom, and we went to 1230 Club. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
restaurant.
Yep.
So we went to that restaurant for dinner, and we stepped on Broadway, and I was like, oh my God, this is the most magical place I've ever been in my life. I have to go to college here. Like, this is perfect. And actually, my grandma is from Memphis, Tennessee. So I have Southern roots, but I had never been to Tennessee until I toured Vandy. But I'd grown up still on my grandma telling me stories about
Yep.
Elvis and singing me Elvis songs. And so when my mom and I walked on Broadway after dinner and I saw that like Elvis statue thing outside of that one store, I don't know. I was like, oh wow, like this just feels everything's drawing me into this school. So I'm so excited. I'm moving in August, and it's going to be the most amazing 4 years.
So congratulations. Well, no, we're absolutely going to have to connect here, and you can come by and see the fun podcast where we did this actual interview. So you'll be able to see it.
Yes.
Well, not only that, you're also going to continue to be able to do your show here. You'll just have to.
100%.
You're just going to have to drive to Memphis a lot because the Grizzlies are about 3 hours away from us.
I personally think there's a world in which the Grizzlies do eventually move to Nashville.
Oh.
I think that would be super cool. Who knows? But
I know.
I could see that maybe happening.
Well, I know a lot of people here would love that. We would love that here.
Yes, I think so. But then, you have the Titans and everything in Nashville, which is going to be super fun. And Vandy has had an incredible sports couple of years. I mean, women's basketball, men's basketball both had great runs in the tournament. Men's football, also amazing. Baseball, Vandy has the #1 women's bowling program in the country. So it's really such a well-rounded athletic department.
You're throwing out all these amazing things. Just so the coach of the bowling team is John Williams. So he's a really close friend of mine. So our sons, our sons played baseball together back in the day.
No way.
Before, call it kid pitch. We were way back in the day. But John, legendary coach, just a legendary coach, and he found it. But you're so right. I mean, Vanderbilt. I can't be too much of a homer guy because this is my home, and as you may know, I'm a huge Tennessee Vol fan. But when it comes to anything,
by the way, I was going to say thank you for your generosity to Vanderbilt. I'm surprised you're being so lenient on.
Hey, this show is all about super fans everywhere they go, and trust me, I never cheer for Vanderbilt football. But when it comes to John's bowling team, I don't think Tennessee has a bowling team. So
I don't think so either.
I'm all about cheering for Vanderbilt bowling. All right, but we got to get back to you living out LA right now because so many of our listeners are going to know more about you as an 18-year-old with this incredible career that you're undertaking and going to be able to continue while you are at Vanderbilt anchor down. What does a week actually look like for you right now?
Yeah, well, I'm currently still in high school, which is interesting times. High school is an interesting time. And I think the reason why I'm so excited for the next chapter is because it's really difficult to do this consistently when I'm also in high school. So there could be a month where I do 5 podcast interviews and I do them after school, or I, tell my math teacher, sorry, but I have to go interview Anthony Davis. I can't be at school. I feel like that should be a fair reason.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah. Or I have to take a day trip somewhere, or on a long weekend, I head to, an NBA centered event, or I go to a Clippers game or a Lakers game. And then there's also times where I really did have to put my education first and put being a kid first, because there were weeks where, I had a giant AP calculus final. And it was important to me that I was able to balance those two things. But now that high school is coming to an end, I graduate at the end of this month. I'm really excited to have so much more of a consistent schedule. So for those listening, I'd love any recommendations. Feel free to DM me on what you want to see more of. I'm really hoping to, at Vanderbilt, be really involved in the athletic department there, and hopefully do some Sloane Knows collaborations, but also continue my podcast from Vandy. And I think, college is different than high school. High
Yep.
school, my school starts at 8:30 and ends at 3:30. And then I have homework and soccer practice and all the things.
Yep.
But in college, I don't know, you've been to college, I haven't, but I've heard it's a different type of schedule where you have a lot more free time. So hopefully then it will be a lot more consistent.
And would you think about, 'cause I do know that at Vanderbilt, you do have more free time, but the social piece is so big. At least at any
Yes.
college, I can only assume. I didn't go to Vanderbilt. I went to TCU, Texas Christian.
Oh, cool.
And so
Wait, what is it?
Horned Frogs, the Horned
right?
Frogs.
I have
And
a few friends going there, yeah.
it's a popular. Now. I couldn't get in there now, but it's a great school, and I think one of the things about college is it's just such an experience. So it's going to be very interesting for you as you're jumping into a new college arena and continuing this passion. But I agree with you. I think you're going to be able to manage your times. But I will tell you, Vanderbilt's not easy. There's going to be some studying to be done. So I assume you're going to be doing media management. Do you already know what you want to graduate with?
So my major is going to be communications, but
Okay.
I'm super excited. When I visited the school, I actually sat in on a sports economics class.
Okay.
And though I was only there for about an hour, they talked about, there was sort of a project where you played a commissioner of a league. So there's so many classes like that I'm so excited to take. And I'm really excited to, I feel like I have my niche right now. My niche is basketball.
Yes.
I'm really excited to expand my knowledge and expand my arena, because at the end of the day, I don't just forever want to be a basketball podcaster. I want to move into talking about all things. I love how you're able to talk to fans of so many different things. That's what I want to be able to do. Talk to people from all walks of life.
Well, I have to say, for everybody listening and for a lot of the lessons that you're giving so many people that are listening, and you're only 18 and you're accomplishing so much, but becoming amazing at a niche, call it a niche, whatever everybody wants to pronounce it, is critical.
Yeah, how does that word, I don't even know how you pronounce that word.
Well, it's unique depending upon where you go in the country, but recently in a panel I did for high school students, your age, here in Nashville, the Business Professionals of America, and one of the panel discussions asked me, JR, how do you build a successful company? And I said, with dynamite. And the answer is TNT. Number one, you got to have a great team. And it sounds like with you, you've got something with JM Street Media that's clearly invested in you and helped you to be able to get to where you are today.
The volume.
The volume. Okay, it's not JM
yes,
Street
yes.
Media. It's called The Volume.
Well, I've worked with Jam Street Media, the volume.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
All right. Well, that first part is T. So obviously
Yes.
you've done a lot with that to where people can see. The second part is the niche, however you want to say it, but you've dug in deep to become an amazing NBA person. You've been able to utilize that with the Dominoes to get more and more players, which has helped raise your profile and make this an amazing podcast, which means you've done the T in pretty strong. And the last one is time. And it's all about time. And so many times, children especially, and everyone, we all expect to have all the money, all the success. Let me go get that Bitcoin. Let me find whatever it may be. But any of the athletes you're interviewing and all the most successful business folks and future podcasters and you yourself, you started when you were 13. So you've had 5 years of training and learning to be able to get to where you are today. And it may take another 5 for you to find out where you want to be. But at the end of the day, TNT, and I've always said, if you focus on those 3 things, you're going to build something that's dynamite. Boom!
I love that. That's super cool. And it is definitely true. I think one real advantage that I've found about starting early and why I suggest to start early is because first, it's okay to not know what you want to do when you grow up. I don't really know what I want to do when I grow up, but I'm doing this now, And it gives you the opportunity to try a lot of things and then see where it leads.
No, absolutely. Well, so here's the one thing that you have such a competitive advantage of. And what I find fascinating about your show is, just like you mentioned briefly earlier, when folks are talking around different areas, I remember when I was a child with my grandfather, I loved watching Magic Johnson, the Lakers, take on the Celtics. I mean, that's what I did when I was just a little kid. Now, you're the one interviewing these individuals. So tell me, what's it like when you're interviewing another teenager? And in terms of that, what is the most surprising thing you have learned from those conversations? Like, what about their teenage life that shocks you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because earlier when you asked me if I was nervous for the Blake Griffin interview, and I said no, I assumed that when I was going to interview, young up and coming stars, either in college or, stars at draft lottery events or Chris Paul and Jason Tatum elite camp, etc.,
Yep.
that I wasn't going to be nervous because I was like, well, I'm not nervous about a superstar like Blake Griffin. Why? And I realized that I actually was, because I think, like I said, again, there was so much like empty space. People don't really know about them. But quickly I learned that that's actually my favorite niche, whatever it is, out of the basketball players that I've gotten to interview, because I think it's really cool that they haven't been as explored anymore. And their story is still yet to be written.
Yes.
Same with me, you know?
Yes.
And our stories get to be written together. We're growing together. We're shooting our shots together. And so that's been really cool to get to talk to players. And what's funny is I realize sometimes I think they might be a little bit more nervous than me, which makes me feel a little bit better.
I love that. When you interview players that are your age or very similar versus interviewing some of the older players?
I think the older players have been asked almost every question out there. And so it's very hard to ask something that's
fair.
Surprising or interesting. And so it's much harder for me to come up with questions that I think will not only make them feel comfortable, but will also be interesting for the audience.
Right.
Whereas for the younger guys, something as basic as where did you go to high school? You know, is so, that hasn't even been said as much. And so I think that that's definitely my preparation is very different with that. But then also sort of like we talked about at the beginning of this, JR, is like with technology and AI and everything, our worlds are so different. But the biggest thing that makes it different in sports is NIL. You know, LeBron James was the most famous prospect in the world. He was on the cover of Sports
Illustrated. He was more famous than Michael Jordan when Jordan came out. There's no question about it.
And he wasn't getting paid money. But you take a kid who's ranked, you know, 67th. Sorry, I had to. No pun intended. But 67th in their class.
6'7". How are you supposed to do it?
6'7", who's ranked 67th, you know, in their class, right? And is definitely not a household name and is committed to a mid-major school. They're making still a decent amount of money. And I do think that that changes things. But it's also really interesting. It also makes the interviews more interesting because they have worked with brands. You know, it's not like they're just being thrown into this world that they've never been a part of. It sort of starts even in middle school. I mean, there's middle schoolers who are already super famous basketball players. So it's just a different world now.
I'm watching them. They're here in Nashville.
Yeah.
So
Yes, they are.
The world has changed, and now it's time for the Desert Fan Island, Sloane Knows edition. All right, Sloane, you got to pretend we're going to go to Golden State for you. You're by yourself. You got the entire arena, just you, all alone with the Jumbotron. Okay, it's like a Desert Fan Island. You're there, all by yourself. You get to watch on the Jumbotron one movie over and over and over again. One musical artist, one food, one drink, and you get to take one person. So here we go with the very first one. What one movie are you going to be watching over and over again?
I just saw Michael for the first time.
Okay.
And I adored it. I thought it was the best movie ever. And I just sort of want to like dance around to it always.
Yep.
So that's one of my thoughts.
Is this the second one? Is it this one?
No. I think I'm gonna pick Elf. Just because I feel like
great
that's
call.
a movie that you could watch always get a laugh. And I think that if I was sitting, you know, leaning back on the chairs at Chase Center, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna chill and watch Elf.
You did it good. No one has said Elf yet before, so
Really?
no, nobody. You're the very
gosh,
first, and that's
I feel
over
proud.
50. You've nailed it. All right, one musical artist. Everybody wants to know, who are you choosing?
Oh, I would pick Harry Styles.
Okay, but he's talented. What can you say?
I'm a huge Harry Styles super fan. In my life, I've had like 3 main topics that I've really obsessed over.
Yep.
And when I was younger, it was Alex Morgan in the U.S. women's national soccer team.
Awesome.
Then it was Harry Styles, and then it was basketball. So those are like my 3 things. So I would definitely pick Harry Styles.
All right, one food.
Does candy count as a food?
Sure. It's not good for you.
Okay, I'd probably pick frozen Milk Duds. That's my favorite candy in the world.
Milk Duds,
I feel like
pretty
I'm gonna get
original.
a lot of hate for that. But if I'm watching a movie,
Why
I
not?
love frozen Milk Duds. I don't really like them when they're not frozen. They have to be frozen, and then I pour them in my popcorn.
That's not bad, because in the popcorn, if it's melting a little bit, it's a little chocolatey.
It's beautiful.
That's
It's really
good.
beautiful. So
Unique.
yeah, frozen Milk Duds.
Wow. All right, one drink. What's your favorite beverage?
Oh gosh. Okay. I think I'd pick either a Diet Coke
Basic.
or an icy.
Ah,
I
boy,
think
you
I just
really
want to
are
be.
going heavy sugar. Okay,
I
I
know,
see.
I'm a
Bring it in.
sugar addict. I know, it's bad. It's bad. It's the kid in me. Like, come on. Hopefully, as I go to Nashville, I'm gonna mature a little bit, and maybe I'll start having some like sweet tea or something as my drink. But for
More
now, I
sugar.
think
More
I
sugar.
did. Well, yeah, but it's still a little bit more sophisticated
Yeah.
than like a blue icy. But no, I think I do like a blue icy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No stains on the teeth. All right, one person. You get to bring one person. Who you bringing?
Okay, I'm gonna keep going with this unique trend that I'm going on. My person is gonna be my dog.
Okay, take it. What kind of dog is it?
My dog Cruz, he's a King Charles Cavalier.
Oh,
He's named
beautiful.
after Victor Cruz on the Giants. And I think if I really was alone in Chase Center with my frozen milk
You want
duds,
your dog. You want
watching
your dog
Elf
there.
and Harry Styles and my slushie, I just want to like cuddle with my dog and chill.
All right, but I'm going to change it up now. You get to take one NBA player and one WNBA player to be with you. One
Oh
NBA
my
player
gosh.
and one WNBA player. Who are the other two sitting side by side with you with the
Yeah.
dog?
The WNBA player would be Angel Reese
Okay.
because
She's cool.
she is so interesting and so cool. And there's so many things that I'd want to ask her when the cameras weren't rolling.
Yep.
And then the NBA player I'd want to take is Steph Curry. He's,
How can you not?
one of my favorite players of all time. He's the chef, the greatest shooter of all time. And I actually haven't gotten to interview him. I've gotten to interview a lot of my favorite Warriors, but that would just be a dream, especially if I was in Chase Center. Like,
I love
would
it.
have to.
Here's what I keep coming back to. You're doing something that most adults never do. You found a thing you love and you turned it into something real. What do you want young people, kids even younger than you, to take from your story?
Yeah, I said it earlier. I think it was in the second quarter when I
You
said
did.
this, but if you don't shoot, you can't make it. I've gotten a million no's. I've written emails, no response. I've made phone calls, no response. I've gone up to people in person who have flat out ignored me. But eventually, if you continue to shoot your shot, you're gonna make it. I love to talk about basketball. I'm not good at basketball. If I took 100 free throws, I'd probably make one.
That's all
But
you got to
that
make.
one, that you just got to make one. And so that would really be my advice. If you have a dream, shoot your shot and eventually you're going to score.
I love it. Is there any pressure that comes with this? I mean, your show now has a lot of attention. I think millions of people and likes.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel the weight of needing to keep delivering?
A little bit, I think. I mean, something that I get worried about is, will people still want to hear me when I'm not as much of a unique voice anymore, right? Because in 10 years, when I'm 28 years old, sure, I'll still be in the gender minority, maybe of sports media, but hopefully that's changed. And I sometimes worry that it won't be as interesting. For a while I asked people when I was younger, I'd say, I'm 14. What would your 14-year-old self think about you now? But as I get older and older, that age doesn't feel as interesting anymore, So that's something that I do worry about.
Well, what do you hope Sloane knows? If you think about it, you mentioned it before. You're right now very focused on the niche of NBA. You're looking to grow it. You're going to be going to college, so you're going to be able to differentiate. You're going to learn so many new things. Other sports, I mean, maybe you're able to actually interview some of the stars of the Vanderbilt bowling team.
I hope so.
Yes. So years from now, what is the version of this that makes you the most proud?
Wow.
I'm going to give you some big time questions here, Sloane.
I love
Knows
that.
you deserve
I
it.
love that. So, when I was growing up, I feel like that was like the prime of YouTube. I'm sure that was the same with your kids. Like my parents would give me my iPad on like a plane or a long car ride, and I would just watch a million YouTube videos. And my favorite videos were watching people go on the Ellen DeGeneres show. But it wasn't celebrities that I loved. It was, Vine stars and little kids with crazy talents, and sort of one-hit wonders. That's always what I love to see because I thought she was bringing light to people that weren't always in the spotlight. And so when I'm an adult, I hope that I'm able to create a show. And I don't know what it's going to look like because, media is changing so much.
Yes.
But I would love to be a modern version of what she or an Oprah or something like that was able to do.
I love it. I love it. All right, it's time for the buzzer beater rapid fire. Okay, Sloane, I'm going to give you questions. Don't overthink it. Let's just go with it. Favorite athlete of all time. Number one question. Favorite athlete of all time.
Steph Curry.
Best NBA arena, in your opinion?
Madison Square Garden.
One NBA game you wish you could have been at in person?
Warriors Thunder when Steph hit the dagger.
All right. Muggsy or Minute? Who wins in a game of one-on-one?
I mean, Minute. You like step on Muggsy probably.
I know.
Who knows?
Yeah. What's
Okay,
your favorite college basketball team outside of Vanderbilt?
Yale. Like we said, my dad went to Yale.
And they've made it to the tourney. They've made it to the tourney.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And when Danny Wolf was on Yale, they always have a lot of, I like underdogs. So I think that they always have like a cool underdog story that's fun to watch.
Funniest moment from behind the scenes of the show that our listeners haven't seen before?
Yeah. So actually, when I interviewed Draymond in San Francisco, we were planning on interviewing him late in the afternoon, but the game before he choked Rudy Gobert and got suspended. And something about the NBA suspension rules are you can't be in the arena if you're suspended a certain amount of time before game time.
Right.
And the Warriors were playing the Thunder that next day. So I had to interview Draymond at 5 a.m. And I had woken up and I had gotten all ready and everything. And I was so worried. And I'm sitting there and he hasn't come yet. And I'm like, oh my God, it's 5 a.m. and I'm in the Warriors arena. And all of a sudden I hear someone be like, Sloane, in his loud voice, and he comes in a matching purple jumpsuit and a fanny pack. Nothing in the world had just happened. And it was not just funny, but it also showed to me what I love about him, because he doesn't let other people get to him. He beats to his own drum, and by beating to his own drum, he's now won 4 NBA championships.
All right, we got to go back to that other question because people want to know, because you've interviewed so many people. You've asked thousands, maybe 1 million questions to these super athletes. Hardest question you've ever had to ask them?
Okay, so I have a funny answer to what the hardest question is.
Yes.
So because I am a teenager and I'm young and I'm trying to bring a positive light, I always try to make my questions super positive, and I love asking players to highlight other athletes. I always think that that's really nice. That's something that you also do, which is cool. So I was in a back tunnel at Fanatics Fest, and there was people, I believe it was Fanatics Fest or it was another event like that, and there was millions of people around Shaq. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to be able to ask Shaq one question, and there's 1 million people around. How do I get his attention? So I think in my head, I'm gonna ask him something where he can highlight another athlete. It's just easy.
Look at you, you're so good at it already. Look at that, you're figuring it out.
Thank you. So I think to ask him, who is an underrated player in the league that you would like to highlight? So I push through everyone, and I'm thinking in my head, this is such an easy question, whatever. And I go, Shaq. And he looks at me, he looks down at me, and I'm like, finally, this is my moment. Oh my God. And I go, who is an underrated player in the league you want to highlight? And he thinks for a second, and he goes, everyone. And walks away. And I was like,
Shaq answer.
Oh, okay. So the easy question that I was just trying to ask to be super positive and everything. And because also, as an interviewer, as a podcaster, you have to be quick on your feet and think of something to say after they say that. And when you say everyone, that's answering any question with yes or no.
He crushed it because he knows he's been there before. Yeah.
Exactly. He's been there before. So that was Shaq's media training coming into play. But that was definitely a funny one and a hard one for me.
All right. NBA finals are almost here. Go on record. 2026 final. Who's going to win it?
Ugh, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be the Thunder. I think it will be Knicks Thunder, and I do think the Thunder are going to go back to back. Yeah,
I know it's going to make your parents very sad. They want those Knicks to win. I know they do.
I know. I mean, so do I. If the Warriors aren't in it, I feel like I have to go back to my family and support them. But
I love it.
I think it's going to be the Thunder. I just don't know who could beat them.
All right, where can our listeners find you, Sloane Knows?
Yeah, find me at Sloane Knows on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, any social media, at Sloane Knows, and Sloane has an E at the end. Very important. Not like the urinal company, which doesn't have an E at the end. That is Sloan. But this Sloane, no, not a urinal, has an E.
Way to pivot, Sloane. Way to pivot. You are 18 years old. You're sitting across from legends, asking questions nobody even thought to ask, and doing it with confidence, humor, and a basketball IQ that frankly puts most of us to shame. You are proof and passion that has no age requirement, and that sometimes the best person in the room is the one who hasn't stopped being a fan. This is the SuperFan Diaries. I'm J.R. Green. Follow, review, and nominate your favorite superfans. And go check out Sloane Knows on every podcast platform, TikTok, and Instagram you can find at Sloane Knows with the proper E. And remember,
Exactly.
and remember, if you make one person smile today, you've had a great day. Make them laugh, even better. Go get them.